What if I told you that the most enslaved person in any room isn't the one in handcuffs? Is it the guy shouting on the street corner? No. We know he's trapped by his own mind. The most enslaved person is the one who believes they are free. And by the end of this chapter, you'll understand why the device in your pocket isn't just a tool, it's a cage you helped build. Or maybe you're already suspecting that the freedom of infinite connection feels a lot like suffocation. But first, let me show you exactly what I mean. Imagine you walk onto a subway train. It's rush hour. You see two people. On the left, there's the user. He's smart, dressed in a sharp suit, clearly successful. But look closer. His head is bent at a 45-degree angle. His thumb is twitching in a rhythmic, almost hypnotic spasm. He's scrolling. He's not smiling, he's not frowning, he's not even really looking. He's just consuming. If you shouted his name, it would take him 3 seconds to return to reality. On the right, there's the architect. He's sitting with his hands folded in his lap. No phone, no book, no headphones. He is staring at the opposite wall. Who makes you feel more uncomfortable? Hold that thought, because the answer will flip your thinking about sanity. You look at the architect and your brain instantly signals weirdo, psychopath, who just sits there. You look at the user and you feel nothing. He's normal, he's just checking emails, he's just catching up on the news. He's productive. So why does society think the user is sane and the architect is crazy? Here's the uncomfortable truth. You judge the architect because he threatens the lie you've been told about what it means to be alive in the 21st century. Marshall McLuhan, the philosopher of media, warned us about this decades ago. He didn't fear the content of the media. He feared the medium itself. Society doesn't fear the phone addict. We fear the man who can sit in silence because he proves that the constant noise we've become addicted to is actually optional. But here's what the architect knows that nobody talks about. The user isn't actually using anything. He is being used. He is operating inside a Skinner box, designed by the smartest engineers in human history to keep him trapped in a loop of stimulus and response. While the user thinks he's exploring the world, he's actually pacing the perimeter of an invisible cage. And that cage, that's exactly what is destroying your mind. But to understand why, we need to dig into the one thing that makes people more uncomfortable than anything else. Blaise Pascal wrote, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." If you've ever felt a phantom vibration in your pocket or panic when your battery hits 5%, this chapter is for you. Like, subscribe, and let's dismantle the cage together. That's the user. He's a walking contradiction that breaks your spirit. He has access to the sum of human knowledge in his pocket, but he uses it to watch arguments between strangers. He can contact anyone on Earth instantly, but feels lonelier than any generation in history. He is connected to everything, but attached to nothing. And this terrifies us. Because if connection doesn't require presence, if knowledge doesn't require memory, if friendship doesn't require eye contact, then what does that say about the digital life you've been building for the last decade? But here's where it gets really interesting. Neuroscientists have discovered something that explains why silence makes you so uncomfortable. And it has nothing to do with boredom. Remember that uncomfortable feeling you get when you leave your phone in the other room? That's not FOMO, fear of missing out. That's withdrawal. Quick question. When was the last time you woke up and didn't touch your phone within the first 60 seconds? Not to check the time, not to turn off an alarm, but to actually check it, to see who liked you, to see who emailed you, to see what disaster happened while you were asleep. Can't remember? That's the problem. We have convinced ourselves that this behavior is about staying informed. It's not. It's about proving we exist. In our culture, the biggest shadow is the fear of irrelevance. If you aren't observing the feed, and if the feed isn't observing you, do you even matter? But here's what the tech giants knew long ago. We perform connection. We curate our lives. We optimize our profiles. We hustle for likes and grind for engagement. Not because it makes us happy, but because we are terrified of what happens if the screen goes black. Think about your last quiet moment, standing in an elevator, waiting in line at the grocery store. Did you just stand there, or did you reach for your pocket? The architect doesn't reach, and that's what makes him dangerous. He's not performing connectivity. He's not proving his worth through digital presence. He's not even pretending to be busy. And somehow, this is the part that breaks people's brains. He still seems happier than everyone frantically refreshing their feeds. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. What irritates you about the architect? Is it that he's not playing by the rules you've been forced to follow? That he's not sacrificing his mental peace for digital currency? That he's not treating his attention like a commodity to be sold to the highest bidder? But what if he's not the weirdo? What if the problem is actually you? Let me show you something first. Because Silicon Valley made a discovery about the human mind that explains why you can't stop scrolling despite knowing it makes you miserable. Here's what the tech CEOs don't want you to know. Your brain wasn't designed for the modern world. It was designed for a world where information was scarce and precious. Everything you've been taught about willpower is backwards. The creators of these apps understand dopamine prediction error. They know that if they give you a reward every time you pull the lever, refresh the feed, you'll get bored. But if they give you a reward sometimes, a variable reward, you become a lab rat. You don't scroll because you enjoy it. You scroll because you might enjoy the next one, or the next one. The architect has stepped out of the Skinner box. He's operating from a completely different level of consciousness. While everyone else is running on a dopamine treadmill, he's reclaiming the one resource you can never get back: attention. This is why he seems to have a clarity that you lack. While you're forcing your brain to process thousands of micro decisions per hour, like, scroll, click, read, ignore, he is saving his cognitive energy for things that actually matter. But here's the really crazy part. This cage is invisible because you hold the key and you lock yourself in it every single morning. It happens on its own timeline. And that's exactly why society fears the architect, because he has tapped into a power that can't be algorithmically controlled, can't be monetized, and can't be predicted by data mining. The architect has accepted something most people never will, that his mind is a sanctuary, not a public square. And that acceptance gives him access to something that all the apps in the world can't provide: peace. But it also makes him a threat to something much bigger than individual mental health. Now we get to the real reason society pushes technology on you. And it's not what you think. This isn't about convenience. This is about compliance. The individual has always had to struggle not to be overwhelmed by the tribe. But the architect isn't struggling against the algorithm. He's ignoring it completely. And that's terrifying to anyone who profits from your distraction. Think about it. Our entire digital economy depends on one belief: that you need to be constantly entertained. You watch ads to buy things you don't need. You argue with strangers to signal your virtue. You click headlines that make you angry because anger keeps you engaged. The architect looks at this system and asks one simple question: why? And nobody has a good answer. He has boredom without anxiety, silence without loneliness, thoughts without the need to immediately share them. This makes him unpredictable. Unpredictable people are dangerous to systems that depend on predictability. But here's the deeper fear that keeps people up at night. What if the architect is right? What if boredom is actually a superpower? What if the ability to sit alone with your thoughts is the prerequisite for all greatness? If that's true, then billions of people are destroying their potential for nothing. They've been sacrificing their focus, their deep work, and their mental resilience for a dopamine hit that lasts 3 seconds. The architect represents proof that there's another way, a way that doesn't require constant stimulation. Who looks outside dreams? Who looks inside awakens? The architect is looking inside, and what he sees there doesn't match what the screen tells him he should want. But here's the uncomfortable twist. You aren't the architect, not yet. You are still the user. You are still the one on the subway, thumb twitching, terrified of the silence. But maybe you're starting to recognize the bars of the cage. Maybe you're wondering why your memory feels shot, why you can't finish a book, why you feel exhausted but haven't done anything. That's not age. That's not just how life is. That is the sound of your mind fracturing under the weight of excessive input. And the worst part, it's designed to feel like your fault. But what if I told you that the glitch in your brain isn't a defect? It's a feature that's being exploited. By the end of this series, you won't just see the cage, you'll have the blueprint to dismantle it. But first we have to look at the enemy. We have to understand not just that you are addicted, but how they did it. Because they didn't just build a tool, they built a casino and they put it inside your brain. In the next chapter, we're going to walk into that casino. We're going to look at the mechanics of the trap. And I'm going to show you why the smartest engineers in Silicon Valley don't let their own children use the very devices they sold to you. The architect is waiting. But to become him, you first have to survive the realization of what has been done to you. Let's go deeper. Here is the uncomfortable truth that nobody in Silicon Valley wants you to admit. You are not holding a phone. You are holding a slot machine. And every time you unlock that screen, you aren't checking for information. You are pulling the lever. Does that sound dramatic? Good. Because the situation is dramatic. You think you're addicted to social media or news or staying connected. You aren't. You are addicted to the most sophisticated behavioral engineering project in human history. But first, let's play a game. Stop reading, put your phone down, or look away from your screen for 10 seconds. Can you feel it? That subtle itch in your pocket? That tiny spike of cortisol in your chest? That reflex to reach out and check just one more time? That isn't a habit. That is withdrawal. And it's not happening because you have weak willpower. It's happening because you are fighting against a supercomputer that knows your brain chemistry better than you do. To understand why you can't stop scrolling, we have to look at a man named B.F. Skinner. Skinner was a psychologist who discovered something terrifying about living creatures. He put pigeons in a box with a lever. If the pigeon pecked the lever and got food every time, the pigeon would peck only when it was hungry. It was a tool. But if the pigeon pecked the lever and got food only sometimes, randomly, unpredictably, the pigeon went insane. It would peck the lever thousands of times an hour, ignoring sleep, ignoring other needs, obsessed with the chance of a reward. Skinner called this a variable reward schedule. Now look at your phone. When you pull down to refresh your email or your Instagram feed or your TikTok For You page, what happens? Sometimes you get nothing. A boring email, a post you've already seen. Sometimes you get a jackpot, a like from your crush, a viral video that makes you laugh, a piece of news that makes you angry. You never know what you're going to get. And that uncertainty is the drug. This is why you check your phone even when you know Nobody has messaged you. You aren't checking for the message. You are checking to see if the lever pays out this time. But here is where the story gets darker. We treat these devices like neutral tools, like a hammer or a screwdriver. But a hammer doesn't wait until you're asleep and then buzz to demand you pick it up. A screwdriver doesn't track your eye movements to see exactly which color handles make you use it longer. The dopamine casino is open 24/7, and it has no windows and no clocks. If you walked into a real casino and saw people sitting at slot machines for 14 hours a day, wearing diapers so they didn't have to leave, you would call it a tragedy. But we do this every day. We take our slot machines into the bathroom, we take them into our beds, we take them to dinner. And who are the pit bosses of this casino? This is the part that should make you angry. Steve Jobs, the man who introduced the iPad 2. The world with religious fervor wouldn't let his own children use one. Bill Gates restricted his daughter's screen time religiously. Tony Fadell, one of the inventors of the iPod, famously said, "I wake up in cold sweats, thinking, what did we bring into the world?" Let that sink in. The people who built the drug don't smoke it. They don't let their children smoke it. They send their kids to Waldorf schools in Silicon Valley where screens are banned until high school. What do they know that you don't? They know that the user is the product. They know that your attention is a finite resource, and their stock price depends on mining every last second of it. They didn't design these apps to help you connect. That's the marketing brochure. They designed them to maximize time on device. Think about the infinite scroll. Before 2006, when you reached the bottom of a web page, it stopped. You had to make a conscious choice to click next page. That tiny pause gave your brain a chance to ask, "Am I done here?" Then, an engineer named Asa Raskin invented the infinite scroll. Now the content never stops. The bowl of soup never empties. There is no stopping queue. Raskin himself later apologized, estimating that his invention alone wastes 200,000 human lifetimes per day. But the casino didn't remove it. Why would they? It keeps you at the table. Here is the neurological glitch they are exploiting: dopamine prediction error. Most people think dopamine is about pleasure. I like this cookie, so I get dopamine. Wrong. Dopamine is about seeking. It's the chemical that drives you to hunt, to search, to crave. When you hear a notification ping, your dopamine levels spike before you even check the phone. The anticipation is higher than the reward. This puts you in a constant state of seeking. You are perpetually leaning forward, waiting for the next thing, never satisfied with the current thing. This is why you can scroll TikTok for 2 hours and feel absolutely empty afterwards. You didn't consume anything nutritious. You just ate 2 hours of sugar-coated air. The user thinks he is having fun. The architect knows he is being harvested. The user thinks, "I'll just check it for 5 minutes." The architect knows that 5 minutes is a lie the addict tells himself to get permission to enter the casino. But the most dangerous part of the casino isn't the time you lose. It's what happens to your mind while you're there. You are training your brain to despise boredom. Every time you feel a second of lull in a conversation, in a line, at a red light, and you reach for the lever, you are rewiring your neural pathways. You are teaching your brain that stillness is pain and distraction is relief. And this leads to the death of something vital. If you cannot sit still, you cannot think deeply. If you cannot think deeply, you cannot solve hard problems. If you cannot solve hard problems, you are no longer the master of your life. You are just a cog in the machine. The dopamine casino has turned you into a reactive creature. You don't choose what to think about. The algorithm serves you a thought and you react. You don't choose what to feel. The feed serves you an outrage and you get angry. You have traded your sovereignty for stimulation. But here is the glimmer of hope. The architect sees the casino for what it is. He sees the flashing lights and hears the bells, and he knows it's all fake. He knows the likes aren't love. He knows the comments aren't community. He knows the news isn't wisdom. He walks past the slot machines and heads for the exit. But as you walk toward that exit, you're going to realize something terrifying. You've been in the casino so long, you've forgotten how to function outside of it. Your attention span has been shattered. Your ability to focus has atrophied. You try to read a book and your eyes slide off the page. You try to watch a movie and you reach for your phone because the movie is too slow. This is the cost of your residency in the dopamine casino. It didn't just take your time, it took your mind. In the next chapter, we're going to assess the damage. We're going to look at the death of deep thinking. And I have to warn you, what neuroscientists are seeing in the brains of heavy users looks a lot less like evolution and a lot more like brain damage. The architect has escaped, but can he heal? Let's find out. If Isaac Newton had an iPhone, you wouldn't know his name. Let that settle. We love to tell the story of the apple falling on his head, but we ignore the context. Newton was sitting under that tree for hours, doing absolutely nothing. He was bored. He was alone. He was staring at nature with zero input, zero notifications, and zero distraction. If Newton were alive today, he wouldn't be looking at the tree. He would be looking at a screen. He would have taken a picture of the apple, posted it with a clever caption, checked for likes 5 minutes later, and then scrolled until he fell asleep. The theory of gravity would have died in his pocket. The architect understands this. He knows that genius doesn't come from hustle. It comes from the void. It comes from the spaces between the noise. But the user has killed the void. And in doing so, he has killed his ability to think. Let's be honest with each other. When was the last time you read a book? I don't mean listen to an audiobook while doing laundry. I don't mean scan a blog post. I mean sit down, open a dense book, and read for 2 hours without checking your phone once. You can't do it, can you? It feels physically painful. Your eyes slide off the page. Your brain screams for a new stimulus. You reread the same paragraph 4 times and absorb nothing. You tell yourself, I'm just tired. Or, this book is boring. No, you are suffering from cognitive atrophy. Neuroplasticity is the buzzword everyone loves. It means your brain is malleable. It changes based on how you use it. But here is the dark side of neuroplasticity that the tech gurus don't mention. It works in reverse too. If you use your brain to process 15-second video clips, rapid-fire headlines, and meme captions, your brain effectively rewires itself to become a skimming machine. It physically prunes away the neural pathways required for deep, sustained focus. It's use it or lose it. And you haven't used your deep thinking muscles in years. You are literally rewiring your brain to be shallow. And this leads to a terrifying question. When was the last time you had a thought that wasn't put there by someone else? Think about it. Your opinions on politics, you got them from a tweet. Your taste in music, the algorithm suggested it. Your goals in life, you saw an influencer doing it. You are not thinking, you are reacting. You are a biological repost button. The architect terrifies people because he is capable of original thought. And original thought only happens when the input stops. Albert Einstein famously said, I have no special talent. I am only passionately curious. But you can't be curious if you are never bored. Curiosity is hunger. It's a desire to figure something out. But the modern internet force feeds you answers before you've even asked the question. You wonder, who is that actor? Google tells you in 2 seconds. You wonder, how do I fix this? YouTube shows you in 30 seconds. There is no struggle. There is no mental friction. And without friction, there is no growth. We are creating a generation of people who have the world's knowledge at their fingertips, but have lost the ability to connect two disparate ideas together. We have smartphones and stupid users, but here's where the cost becomes personal. It's not just about becoming a genius like Newton. It's about being a functional human being. Because deep thinking isn't just for physics, it's for life. To solve a complex problem in your marriage, you need deep thinking. To navigate a career change, you need deep thinking. To understand who you actually are, you need deep thinking. If you can't hold a thought for more than 60 seconds, you can't solve these problems. So what do? You ignore them. You numb them. You reach for the phone to drown out the complexity because your brain no longer has the stamina to process it. The architect sees this trap. He treats his attention span like a muscle. He protects it. He trains it. He knows that in an economy of distracted zombies, the man who can focus for 4 hours is king, while everyone else is multitasking and doing everything poorly. The architect is engaging in what Cal Newport calls deep work. He produces in 4 hours what the user produces in 40. This is why the architect seems to have more time than you. He doesn't. He just isn't leaking his time into a black hole of fragmentation. But escaping the skimming machine is hard. When you first try to sit in silence or read a book or just think, it will feel like withdrawal. Your brain will throw a tantrum. It will demand the dopamine hit. But if you push through that initial pain, something magical happens. The fog lifts. The ideas start to come back. You start to make connections again. You realize that your bad memory wasn't a bad memory. It was just bad attention. You realize that you aren't uncreative. You were just too loud to hear your own ideas. However, regaining your focus is only half the battle. Because once you turn off the noise and stop the scrolling, you are left with something much more frightening than boredom. You are left with yourself. And for many of you, that is the scariest place on earth. Why do we run from silence? Because in silence, the shadow speaks. In the next chapter, we're going to look at the psychological reason you keep the screen lit up. We're going to talk about the things you are trying not to feel. The architect has faced his shadow. The user is running from it. And the faster you run, the more tired you get. Let's turn around and face it. Why is the bathroom the only place you have peace? Why do you take your phone in there? It's not because you need to be entertained for those 3 minutes. It's because for modern humans, 3 minutes of silence is 3 minutes too long. We have arrived at the darkest part of the cage. We've talked about the engineering, the casino, and the consequences, the brain damage, but we haven't talked about the reason. Why do you submit to the cage? Why do you voluntarily pick up the device that makes you miserable? Here is the uncomfortable truth. You aren't scrolling to see what's new. You are scrolling to avoid what is already there. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist who terrified the 20th century with his insights, had a concept called the shadow. The shadow consists of all the parts of yourself that you refuse to acknowledge. Your insecurities, your shame, your fear of death, your realization that you hate your job, your loneliness. In the past, you had to face your shadow. When you walked home from work in 1995, you had 20 minutes of silence. You had to think about that awkward conversation. You had to feel the weight of your unfulfilled potential. It was painful, but that pain was useful. It forced you to change. It was a signal from your psyche saying, "Or something is wrong, fix it." Today, the moment the shadow whispers, you reach for the screen, you feel a twinge of loneliness, swipe right, you feel a pang of career anxiety, check LinkedIn, you feel the existential dread of mortality, watch a cat video, The phone is not a communication device, it is a digital anesthetic. The user is in a constant state of low-grade sedation. He numbs every negative emotion before it can fully form. He thinks he is managing his stress, but he isn't managing it. He is hoarding it. By repressing these micro doses of pain every single day, they accumulate in the background. This is why you have anxiety attacks for no reason. This is why you feel a heavy, dull dread on Sunday evenings. You haven't processed a single emotion in 10 years. You've just buffered them. The architect knows this. He knows that the only way out is through. He sits in the silence and he lets the shadow speak. It hurts. It's uncomfortable, but because he faces it, he resolves it. The user runs from it, and so it chases him. And the screen doesn't just numb the pain, it actively creates it. Let's talk about the highlight reel effect. When you unlock that screen, you are immediately transported into a world that doesn't exist. You see your friends getting promoted. You see influencers with perfect bodies on beaches you can't afford. You see 19-year-old millionaires. You are comparing your internal blooper reel, your doubts, your mess, your bad mornings, to everyone else's movie trailer. The algorithm knows this makes you feel inadequate, and it knows that when you feel inadequate, you buy things. You click things. You search for how to get rich quick or how to lose weight fast. Your insecurity is their business model. If you felt perfectly content with your life, the economy of the internet would collapse overnight. So the machine is designed to make you feel specifically less than. The user looks at the screen and thinks, everyone is living a better life than me. The architect looks at the screen and sees a gallery of curated lies. He knows that the influencer posting the sunset photo spent 45 minutes filtering it and is currently fighting with her boyfriend. He knows the business guru renting the Lamborghini is drowning in debt. He sees the desperation behind the performance. But the most dangerous psychological trap isn't envy, it's loneliness. We are the most connected society in history, yet we are in the middle of a loneliness epidemic so severe that medical officers are calling it a public health crisis. How is that possible? Because connection is not the same as intimacy. Connection is low stakes. It's a like, it's a comment, it's an emoji. It requires no vulnerability, no risk, and no presence. Intimacy is high stakes. It requires you to look someone in the eye. It requires you to be seen, flaws and all. The phone gives you the illusion of companionship without the demands of friendship. It's junk food for the soul. It fills you up, but it gives you no nutrition. The user has 5,000 followers and nobody to call when he's crying. The architect has 3 friends, but he would trust them with his life. This is the psychological toll of the cage. You are terrified of being alone, yet you are terrified of true connection. So you settle for the safe, sterile middle ground of the screen. And you stay there because of the revenge bedtime procrastination. You know this phenomenon. It's 11 p.m. You are exhausted. You should sleep, but you don't. You stay up until 2 a.m., scrolling mindlessly through videos you won't remember tomorrow. Why? Because the daytime belonged to your boss. It belonged to your obligations. It belonged to the shoulds. Late at night is the only time that feels like yours. You are stealing back your time from the demands of life, but you aren't using that time to live. You are using it to zombie walk through an algorithm. You are stealing time from your future self, who will be exhausted tomorrow, to feed a machine that doesn't care about you. The architect sleeps. He doesn't need to take revenge on his day because he owns his day. He doesn't need to escape his life because he has built a life he doesn't need to escape from. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, Jung wrote, but by making the darkness conscious. The screen is a device for keeping the darkness unconscious. It is a shield you hold up against your own soul. But shields get heavy, and you are so tired of holding it. The anxiety you feel isn't caused by the world. It's caused by the window you are viewing the world through. If you put down the shield, yes, the monsters will come, the regrets, the fears, the doubts, but once they come, you can fight them, you can name them, you can defeat them. As long as you keep scrolling, they are waiting in the dark, growing stronger. So how do we drop the shield? How do we step out of the casino, repair the brain damage, and face the shadow? We don't do it with a digital detox. That's for tourists. We do it with a rebellion. In the next chapter, I'm going to show you the rebel's way. We're going to move from philosophy to tactics. I'm going to teach you how to turn your phone back into a tool and how to reclaim the sovereignty of your own mind. It's time to stop being the user. It's time to become the dangerous person. Let's burn the cage. Most people try to fix their addiction with a digital detox. They delete Instagram for a week. They buy a timed lockbox. They announce on Facebook that they are taking a break, which is ironic if you think about it. And 2 weeks later, they are back in the cage, scrolling harder than before. Why? Because detox implies that you are just taking a vacation from your real life. It implies that the addiction is the default state, and sobriety is just a temporary punishment. The architect doesn't do detoxes. He doesn't go on diets. He creates a new baseline. We are not here to teach you how to use your phone less. We are here to teach you how to cultivate digital sovereignty. Sovereignty means supreme power or authority. Right now, Silicon Valley has sovereignty over your dopamine receptors. It's time to take it back. This is not a self-help listicle. This is an insurrection. If you want to escape the Skinner box, you cannot ask the prison guards for the key. You have to break the lock. Here is the uncomfortable truth. You will never beat the algorithm with willpower. The algorithm is smarter than you. It is faster than you. It never sleeps. To win, you have to change the environment. You have to stop fighting the war on their terms. Here are the 3 weapons the architect uses to kill the user. Weapon 1, stripping the paint, grayscale. The dopamine casino is bright, colorful, and flashing. That is by design. The color red, used for notification badges, is biologically hardwired to trigger alertness. It signals blood, danger, or fruit, food. Your monkey brain sees red and screams, "Look!" So the first act of rebellion is to break the visual trigger. Go to your settings right now. Search for color filters or grayscale. Turn it on. Suddenly, your $1,000 supercomputer looks like a slab of Soviet-era concrete. Instagram without color is shockingly boring. The photos look flat. The red notification badge becomes a dull gray circle. The slot machine stops flashing. When the user looks at a grayscale phone, he feels a drop in excitement. The craving evaporates because the visual cue is gone. This is the most powerful pattern interrupt you can deploy. It converts the device from a toy back into a tool. Tools are boring. Hammers are boring. Your phone should be boring. If it's boring, you'll only use it when you actually need to do something. Weapon 2, the analog morning. How you spend the first hour of your morning determines the trajectory of your entire day. If you wake up and immediately scroll, you are starting your day in a reactive state. You are letting the world scream its demands at you before you have even brushed your teeth. You are letting strangers rent space in your head for free. The architect has a non-negotiable rule: no screens for the first hour. This sounds impossible to the user. What if there's an emergency? Stop lying to yourself. If there is a true emergency, they will call you. No one texts, "My leg is broken." via DM. When you reclaim that first hour, you reclaim your mind. You drink your coffee. You look out the window. You read a paper book. You sit with your own thoughts. This is painful at first. Your brain will scream for input. But after a week, you will notice something terrifying. You are happy. You are calm. You are operating from a place of offense, not defense. You are deciding what your day is about, rather than letting an algorithm decide for you. Weapon 3, friction is freedom. The Silicon Valley ethos is frictionless. They want to make it as easy as possible for you to slide into the app. Face ID, autofill, single sign-on. The Rebel reintroduces friction. If you want to stop eating cookies, you don't put the jar on your desk. You put it on the top shelf of the garage. You make it annoying to get to. Do the same with your phone. Rule 1, the kitchen charger. Never, under any circumstances, charge your phone in your bedroom. The bedroom is for sleep and intimacy. If the phone is there, you will use it. Buy a $10 alarm clock. Charge the phone in the kitchen. Rule 2, the app purge. If an app has an infinite scroll, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Reddit, it does not belong on your phone. But I need it for work. Then use the desktop version. Sit down at a computer, log in, do your work, and log out. The phone should be for utility, maps, music, Uber, texting. The moment you remove the feeds from your pocket, you remove the portal to the casino. When you are standing in line at the grocery store and you pull out your phone, you will see but a weather app, a calculator, boring. So you will put it away and you will look at the world. The fear of missing out, the final boss. Now I know what you're thinking. If I do this, I'll be disconnected. I'll be the weird guy who doesn't know the latest meme. I'll miss out. Yes, you will. And that is the point. You have to choose what you want to miss out on. Do you want to miss out on the memes? Or do you want to miss out on your life? The user knows everything about the Kardashians, but nothing about his own children. He knows every political scandal, but hasn't felt a moment of peace in 6 years. The architect misses out on the noise so he can tune into the signal. When you become unreachable, you become valuable. Think about the most important people in the world. Are they instantly available? Can you DM the CEO of a Fortune 500 company and get a reply in 3 seconds? No. They are guarded. Their attention is protected. By constantly being available, by constantly responding to every ping, you are signaling to the world and to yourself that your time has no value. The rebel flips the script. He becomes the dangerous person because he is scarce. When he speaks, people listen because he isn't spewing noise 24/7. When he works, he moves mountains because he isn't fracturing his focus every 4 minutes. He walks through the world with his head up, making eye contact, noticing the things the user is too busy scrolling to see. He has reclaimed his sovereignty, but there is one final stage. Once you break the addiction, once you silence the noise, and once you face the shadow, something shifts in your soul. You don't just become productive. You don't just become calm. You wake up. In the final chapter, we are going to talk about the awakening. We are going to return to that subway car from chapter 1. But this time, you aren't watching the architect. You are him. And you're about to see just how deep the rabbit hole really goes. Let's go back to the subway. It's rush hour again. The train is packed. The air is stale. The noise is deafening. But this time, the camera doesn't zoom in on the user with his twitching thumb, and it doesn't zoom in on the stranger staring at the wall. It zooms in on you. You are sitting there. Your hands are folded in your lap. Your phone is in your bag, not your pocket. And for the first time in 10 years, your mind is completely silent. You look around the car. You see the rows of heads bent down in prayer to the glowing rectangles. You see the glazed eyes. You see the frantic swiping, but you don't feel judgment anymore. You don't feel that smug sense of superiority. You feel compassion. You realize that you are walking through a ward of sleepwalkers. They are physically present, but mentally they are thousands of miles away, trapped in a server farm in California, arguing with ghosts. But you are here. You notice the way the light catches the dust motes in the air. You notice the exhaustion on the face of the nurse sitting opposite you. You notice the rhythm of the tracks. The world has suddenly snapped back into high definition. This is the awakening. It isn't a mystical state. It isn't nirvana. It is simply the act of returning to reality. William James, the father of modern psychology, wrote, "My experience is what I agree to attend to." Read that again. Your life is what you pay attention to. If you pay attention to your children, your life is your family. If you pay attention to your craft, your life is your art. If you pay attention to an algorithm, your life is nothing. It is a simulation. It is a series of data points harvested to sell you sneakers you don't need. When you reclaim your attention, you don't just get your time back, you get your life back. The user thinks he is killing time. The architect knows that time is the only thing that kills us. We are all dying. Every second you spend scrolling is a second you are not living, not loving, not building, and not being. It is a second you have voluntarily donated to a corporation that views you as a daily active user rather than a human soul. The awakening is the moment you realize that the trade was a scam. You traded your limited time on Earth for a dopamine hit that lasts 3 seconds. But now you have stopped the trade, and this makes you dangerous. I told you at the beginning of this series that society fears the dangerous person. Now you know why. A person who cannot be distracted is a person who cannot be controlled. If you don't watch the news, they can't sell you fear. If you don't scroll Instagram, they can't sell you insecurity. If you don't react to the outrage of the day, they can't herd you like cattle. You have removed yourself from the economy of distraction. You have become a glitch in the matrix. While everyone else is running on the hamster wheel, exhausted and anxious, you are stepping off. You are walking out of the casino. The sun's shining outside, and for the first time you notice how quiet it is. This silence isn't empty. It is pregnant with possibility. In this silence, you will remember who you were before the world told you who to be. In this silence, the ideas that have been suffocated by the noise will finally catch their breath. In this silence, you will build something that lasts. But I have to warn you one last time. The cage will try to pull you back. The next time you are bored, the itch will return. The next time you are sad, the urge to numb yourself will scream at you. The next time you are lonely, the glowing rectangle will promise you connection. The user inside you is not dead. He is just sleeping. Every morning, you have to make the choice again. Will you pick up the tool, or will you become the tool? Will you consume, or will you create? Will you sleep, or will you wake? The architect doesn't need to answer that question. He just looks at the black mirror of the screen, sees his own reflection, and puts it away. He looks up. He looks at the world, and he begins. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. You are awake now. Don't go back to sleep.